Hello, Middlemarchers, and welcome back to another episode of Marching Towards Love. We are your hosts,
Corey
and Rachel, and we are so excited to present this episode to you. We want to take a quick moment to appreciate today's sponsor, Dr. Peterson and the Institution for Victorian Literature.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson, for sponsoring us, and what an exciting episode to sponsor. We have inquiries from 3 lovely individuals who we hope our words can give some advice and comfort to.
And, as always, one happily ever after letter from 2 very dedicated listeners to round out this episode. All right, Corey, would you do the honors of jumping right in with that first letter?
Okay, our first letter comes from a man named Lydgate. He says, "Dear Marching Towards Love, I hope this letter finds you well. I never thought I would come to the point of asking someone for marriage advice, but I feel I've come to the point of needing counsel on matters of the heart. Love, as you know, can be a very perplexing and tumultuous affair. While I am a proficient physician, I am in debt. While this is not your area of expertise, I did bring it up in a conversation with my wife Rosamond about getting rid of a few unnecessary expenses. I told her, we too can do with only one servant and live on very little. Her response took me by surprise. She replied, "Of course you can dismiss the other 2 servants if you like, but I should have thought it would be very injurious to your position for us to live in a poor way. You must expect your practice to be lowered. How do I get her to see that I'm trying to do this for our own good? How do I communicate with someone who fights me at every turn? Your guidance and insight would be invaluable to me in navigating this delicate situation. I eagerly await your words of wisdom. Yours sincerely, Lydgate."
Wow. First, we are so grateful that you are taking out your frustration in a healthy way through writing this letter, rather than letting it bottle up and create devastating consequences for your relationship.
I don't think it's wrong to live a bit more frugally when there are financial troubles, but it seems to be causing a distinct rift in your marriage. And really for you, Mr. Lydgate, it seems to be a matter of pride. Do you want to be known as a debtor or as someone who appears a bit less wealthy than they should be?
I absolutely agree. And furthermore, let's take a look at what your wife said to you. Wow, that is some passive aggression if I ever saw it.
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely insane. With her response, I mean, come on, she blatantly insulted you and diminished your human worth to your monetary worth. Now that's low.
Yeah, I think that says a lot about where her priorities are at, and they're not with you, but more so with your position.
Yeah, I would love to tell you to try to be the voice of reason, but I think this might be one of those instances where there's no longer room for compromise.
Yeah, I would suggest trying to do things as a team, not going behind each other's backs. But really remember, a marriage is supposed to be about mutual growth, and if that is not possible any longer, it's best to get out of that relationship.
Absolutely right. I wish there was a happy ending for you, Mr. Lydgate. It's hard to see past the lack of communication your wife is allowing you.
Yeah, I wish we had some better advice for you, but this is such a hard situation to be in. Thank you so much for your letter, and we wish you the best of luck.
Now we have a second letter that comes from Mrs. Bulstrode. She says, "Dear Marching Towards Love, I hope this letter finds you in good spirits. I find myself in a situation that weighs heavily on my heart, and I thought you might offer some much needed advice on matters of love. My husband, Mr. Bulstrode, is a complicated man. I just found out some damaging information about him, about his life and the fortune that is provided for us, and I am conflicted about whether or not to stay loyal to him. How could he have kept this from me for so long is troubling, but alas, here we are. When I was comforting him one night, he broke down crying and asked, 'How much is only slander and false suspicion?' But it has weighed heavy on my mind that he didn't say, 'I am innocent.' Do I stay loyal to my husband? Do I question why he's done these things? Your wisdom and insight are being solace to my troubled mind. I eagerly await your advice. With warm regards, Mrs. Bulstrode."
Mrs. Bulstrode, first, we want to say that we are so sorry for what you're going through. It is always hard to navigate a marriage in hard times. It's also hard to know that someone you loved and trusted kept something so important from you.
I would like to suggest having an open and honest conversation with your husband, seeing if there's any more secrets he is keeping.
I agree. I think that in order to fully trust someone again after knowing you were kept in the dark, it is important to have one of those deep and honest discussions on how to move forward.
For sure. I would also suggest taking some time to collect your thoughts before rushing into any heavy conversations with him. Having those small moments of solitary peace can really help you think through the important things you would want to say to your husband.
I agree. I think if you are ever going to be faithfully loyal and trust your husband again, you need to ask the questions that you want the answers to.
For sure. Thank you so much for writing a letter to us, and we hope our advice helps you navigate through these difficult times.
Mm-hmm. Now we have one more inquiry letter from a young lady named Dorothea. She writes, "Dear Marching Towards Love, long-time listener, first-time writer. I've been listening ever since my husband died, and have found your show to be very helpful in understanding love and what makes a lasting marriage, something I wish I had much earlier. I come to you rather upset and seeking advice about my situation. My first husband, Mr. Casaubon, was not who I had expected him to be. I didn't appreciate him for the right reasons. He got ill and passed away, but left in his will this codicil in which I can keep the fortunes he has left me as long as I do not marry his nephew, Will. I recently had a conversation with Will, and he all but admitted he loved me. And I love him too. I only wish I had known before. I wish he knew. Then we could be quite happy in thinking of each other. However, with the codicil in place, how could I ever say to myself that I would defy it? I want to be with him. I truly love him, but how can I be? Marriage didn't quite work out for me the first time, and even now it is my conviction that marriage is so unlike everything else. There's something even awful in the nearness it brings. Even if we loved someone else better than those we were married to, it would be of no use. What do I do? Desperately yours, Dorothea."
First of all, Dorothea, we are so sorry for your loss and the mental anguish your husband's passing has caused you. It is very apparent that there must have been a lack of trust in relationship for this codicil to be made.
Yes, absolutely. And can we spend just a moment on the trauma that marriage has left you, to the point where you can't even trust marriage anymore? It makes me wonder what your original intentions for marriage were, your first marriage were, if not for love.
We should always seek love with true intentions. It is so easy to get swept away in the idealization of what someone can bring you, but we have to be careful of our own ambitions.
I think the best way to help you out in this case is to just emphasize the love you and Will share. You're not walking into this relationship blinded by a man's intelligence or position, but by love, and that is a wonderful thing.
Absolutely, Rachel. And when you're in love in a stable relationship, you're going to work together to survive together. So I don't think you should be as worried about the codicil or what other people think as you are.
Absolutely. We sincerely hope you finally find happiness, Dorothea. Okay, and now it is that time of the episode where we get to our happily ever after letter.
Woo!
Now, this letter comes from two devoted listeners, Fred and Mary. They write, "Dear Marching Towards Love, friends, it has been a journey, but we have an exciting update for your podcast. Now, we've been friends for such a long time, loving each other dearly, but have only recently been ready for marriage. We just wanted to share a bit of our life with you since your advice has made so much of an impact on our happiness. Waiting was honestly the best plan of action for us. Fred here had such a gambling addiction and dreamed of being a clergyman, can you believe it? Well, I sure talked him out of that, and he's been so honest and hardworking since. I am fully confident in my own individuality, and that's part of the strong foundation of our marriage. When we got engaged, my father told me beforehand, he'll be steady and saving, and you've got your mother's cleverness, and mine too, in a woman's sort of way, and you'll keep him in order. Now, we all know that husbands are an inferior class of men who require keeping in order, but we truly work together to create a steady life and keep ourselves accountable. Together, we are achieving a solid mutual happiness. Thank you for lasting advice, and we hope other couples find the happiness we have. With the most sincere thanks and love, Fred and Mary."
Fred and Mary, ladies and gentlemen, Their story is so heartwarming. I'm so proud of them.
Oh, me too, Corey, me too. Right? They have grown so much from young kids in love to the struggle of debt and gambling, and now to a healthy relationship.
It is so great that they're finding humor in their situation and relying on each other to keep themselves accountable. That is what marriage is about.
Yes, it is. Oh, and such a comedy they have together. Now, love does not conquer all, let's be clear, but these two are beautiful examples of the dedication we emphasize in our show. Working together, marching on together, is what allows a relationship to thrive.
Well, ladies and gentlemen listening, that is all the letters we have for you today. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Marching Towards Love. We appreciate all your letters and all the support of you listeners.
We love you, and happy marching!